Sorry, he scared me. I didn't know what he was doing. I get a bit nervous when tall men with black are walking behind me. I get a bit nervous. But good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Brendan. I'm a cultural representative and the cultural educator for Metropolitan Local Aboriginal Land Council. Our Aboriginal Land Councils, under Australia's Land Rights Act of 1983, we are the cultural authority, the guardians, custodians, caretakers of lands and waters within our boundaries. I often think about our role as the Land Council, and it should be the role of everyone that lives here. It should be the role of everyone. Caretakers, guardians. We all live here. We all live here. I'm here tonight to welcome you to country, and look, it's the welcome to country. Again, it's still copping a bit of a beating. It's copping a bit of a beating. And I sat back and I saw, and I knew it was coming on Anzac Day. Pastor Ray. And his response the next day was, and I loved him for his response, was, what have we ever done to deserve to be treated the way we've been treated? And for me, it sort of reinforces the stigma of not being part of the collective, the us. We've always been them, separate. And right throughout our history. We weren't even allowed to become citizens until the 1960s. We came under the Flora and Fauna Act. We were removed from our families. It was based on the colour of our skin. So how? I choose now to educate again. You know, this time, 2026, and I'm still having to educate about our history and our culture. 2026. So there were two reasons I sat back and thought about the welcome to country and what it cops, and it's two types of people that don't like it or don't understand it. The uneducated and just the flat-out racist. So I choose to educate. I take the high road. And by the time I've educated and explained it, if you still don't like it, well, it makes it easier for me to know what box to put you in. And I always say this, I'm more than happy to have a cultural discussion with you in the car park when I'm finished. And I always say this too, I'm glad we're having a bit of a laugh over that joke. I've been at an IT event and I said that exact joke, and part of my English, but they shit themselves. And they all seen, I saw them all adjusting their seats, sitting up a bit straighter and better make sure the phone's not on, this bloke's not mucking around. Why wouldn't Aboriginal people have a protocol based around having respect for each other? This is what a welcome to country is. The definition of the word country, our definition is in relation to our homelands. Our homelands. We have more Aboriginal nations here than anywhere else in the world. Each Aboriginal nation uniquely different. Different language, different diet. But we each refer to our homelands as country. So I currently, when I go home, I'm going back to country. So the welcome to country is not a welcome to Australia. It's a welcome to the Aboriginal country. And there, I think, lays the first problem, is acknowledgement. Acknowledgement. I'm never up here pointing the finger over what's happened. Look, I'm the second generation of my family that's part of what I call the kidnapped generation. Not stolen, we were kidnapped. I never met my mother. I'm one of 10. All of us taken. We've lost 5 on the journey, never met them. I've only met 3 brothers. We don't talk. No, you can't have a relationship. So my family unit is finished. Finished. But it's acknowledgement. How are we supposed to heal if it's not acknowledged? Traditionally, if I was welcomed onto my neighbour's country, and we don't walk on each other's country unless we're welcomed on each other's country. We're not just Aboriginal men, we've got families, we've got kids, we've got our wives, traditionally. Why would we allow strangers to come into that space? Why would we? The only time we'd walk on country unwelcomed, uninvited is when we're up to no good. When we're up to no good. So why wouldn't we have this welcome to country? I'll welcome you to country. What are you here for? Where have you come from? You can't walk over there because we've got our sacred sites over there. You can't go over there because that's all the women's sites over there. You can drink water from those water holes over there, but you can't drink and swim in those water holes. They're our sacred water holes. Our totem is this. You can't eat our totem. And the toilet is right over there. This is what being traditionally welcomed onto country. That's what it was like. And so in saying that, I don't recommend you eat the fish out of Sydney Harbour. I've lived here my whole life. I was born at Surrey Hills. I remember the days of a cheap handline and a nasty packet of prawns. I used to catch a feed. All the time. I'm still catching the fish, but there are now extra things attached to the fish. I can't. Some people do. That's okay. She's not there. But this is what our welcome to country is. It's going to be our history. It's our history, acknowledging our history. All we've ever done is walk with a hand out. Walk with a hand out. Come. We all live here. The world's oldest living continual culture. Surely we know something about something to have survived for so long. And not just survive, we're thriving. We're thriving. The lands we're gathered on here tonight traditionally belong to the grass tree people. Gadigal. Gadi means grass tree. Gal means people. One of 29 clans that made up the Eora Nation. The boundaries for the Eora Nation start from the ocean, surrounded by three of Australia's most beautiful rivers. The Hawkesbury, the Nepean, and the Georges rivers. In between those three mighty and beautiful rivers, there was 29 clans. 29 clans. The name of the clan we're gathered on here this evening is Gadigal. On behalf of those Gadigal ancestors, because I believe their spirits are still in the lands and the waters. On behalf of Metropolitan Aboriginal Land Council, our board and our members, it gives me great honour to welcome you here tonight. Welcome to the lands and waters of the grass tree people. I pay my respects to my elders past, present and emerging, and I always extend that to my non-Indigenous brothers and sisters as well. The only difference between us is our language. It's our only difference. So welcome. I'd just like to finish off now by playing a welcome song. Please get rid of the word didgeridoo. It's not an Aboriginal word. 50 different language names for this instrument. Not one of them's called didgeridoo. We've never had control over our own narrative. Someone else always telling the story. In one language, it's called Yidaki. And the word Yidaki refers to voice. We sing through it while we play. We just don't blow it and make a noise. We sing through it. I used to busk at a lovely place back in the day called King's Cross. Easy money back in the day. But also you come across a lot of annoying people. I was sitting there busking. Make the noise of an elephant, huh? Brah, can you play this on there, dude? I don't know. I said, play the didge, brah. So it's not called a didge. It's called a yulby. You'll be sore when I hit you with it, so keep moving. So I just thought to finish off by playing a welcome song on the Yidaki. Yidaki does not come from New South Wales. It's not a traditional instrument down here. It's a borrowed instrument. And it comes from the top parts.
Thank you, Uncle Brendan. What a marvellous welcome song and a very moving welcome to country. I can think of no better way to start the 2026 New South Wales Literary Awards without your presence. So thank you very much for joining us. Welcome to the State Library of New South Wales, whether you're joining us here in the room or you are watching online. I'm delighted to have you here to celebrate the New South Wales Literary Awards for this year. The library is a place of reading, it's a place of writing, it's a place for discussion and debate, it's a sanctuary for research, for creativity, and of course, curiosity. And it's in that spirit that we gather tonight to celebrate writing and reading. I'd like to note that we're joined by our Auslan interpreters, Laura and Josh, tonight. Thank you. I'm very pleased to be joined by the Minister for the Arts, the Honourable John Graham, a great champion of libraries and literature in this state. The Honourable Ben Franklin, President of the Legislative Council, Melanie Hawes, our Secretary, our newish still Secretary of the Department of Creative Industries, Tourism, Hospitality and Sport, our incredibly hardworking Library Council, many in the second row, who do an extraordinary job month in, month out, overseeing the library. Thank you to our Foundation Board, who gives so much to the library. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you also to the many cultural leaders in the room. I acknowledge Brooke Webb, who of course is on our Library Council, but the CEO of Sydney Writers Festival, and she doesn't have much on this week, do you, Brooke? Create New South Wales head Kerry Glasscock, and other representatives from Create New South Wales and Multicultural New South Wales partners in these awards. I also note we have the CEO of the Powerhouse Museum, Lisa Harviller, with us, the Chair of the Sydney Opera House, Michael McDaniel, welcome, and Mike Rodriguez, the Commissioner for the 24-Hour Economy. And I think a testament to the library, we also have our former Secretary, Elizabeth Mildwater, who's moved on to a different portfolio, but we welcome you here tonight. I acknowledge the support of the New South Wales Government. These are the oldest awards in the country, and they are of enormous value, we know that. So we thank the Government for their ongoing support. We also thank our many sponsors, Multicultural New South Wales, the University of Technology and the University of Sydney. I commend the 36 judges for their dedication to the massive task of judging. I know when they get that request from the library, I'm sure some of them, they've told me, they take a deep breath, but they know that that commitment to the state and commitment to writing in the state makes them agree to us, to being judges, so I thank them. They judged almost 800 entries across 12 categories this year. Their insights and their commitment make these awards possible. And I give special thanks to our senior judge, James Bradley. It's James's first year, we hope he'll be back next year, as no pressure, James, as senior judge this year, and he expertly coordinated the judging process with clear and considered leadership. To all the shortlisted and the highly commended, indeed all the entries we're recognising tonight, congratulations. Behind every unforgettable story is a writer with extraordinary imagination and skill. It's an honour to bring you from behind the pages into the forefront tonight so that we can celebrate the invaluable contributions to our community by writers, by publishers, by all those who contribute to the literary ecosystem. Tonight we also celebrate the beginning of Sydney Writers' Festival, and indeed in this very auditorium we had hundreds yesterday celebrating so many different panels. And we have another event here on Thursday night, a Library That Made Me event with Philippa McGuinness. And it's sure to be another fantastic night where we hear about why libraries matter. But I'd now like to hand to our incredible president of the Library Council of New South Wales, who needs very little introduction, but was indeed a former Minister for the Arts, overseeing the Literary Awards, the Honourable Bob Debus. Welcome, Bob.
Thanks, Caroline, and I too want to acknowledge all those people who you've just recognised and thank Uncle Kevin for that particularly moving welcome to country. We haven't quite reached the 50th anniversary of these awards, but we have reached the 50th anniversary of the Premier who inaugurated them. Back in 1979, when the awards began, Neville Wran was very clear about their purpose. In a speech, he listed three things. First, to uphold the writer's place in a free society. Second, to raise and preserve the standards of our literature. And third, to affirm the community's respect for a free and flourishing literary culture. It seems to me that those goals are as good now as they ever were. To uphold a writer's place in a free society, to raise the standards of our literature, and to affirm the community's respect for a free and flourishing literary culture. In an age when global populism is as it is, it's a profound achievement just to maintain a sturdy, free and flourishing literary culture, just to hold out against the attempts at book banning and censorship that seem to spring up in so many places. And indeed, we thank Minister Graham for introducing an amendment to the Library Act this year, which had the purpose precisely of guaranteeing that libraries may continue to freely develop their collections and resist any pressure to ban books. So in that speech, Neville Wran also talked about the tension he said that inevitably exists around government funding of the arts. He said he thought artistic scepticism about official blessing and patronage was healthy. Traditionally, he said, the relationship between government and writers is a wary, somewhat uneasy one. And he said, I would not want to alter that. He was explicit. He didn't want writers to feel beholden or intimidated just because they won a prize for excellence. I submit to you, ladies and gentlemen, that this is a truly democratic attitude, 1,000 miles from the attitude of Donald Trump or those in Australia who admire him. So long as governments continue to hold Neville Wran's attitude, prize winners are safe. In 1979, however, there was one prominent, rather embittered commentator who said that the awards were just a sop to writers without merit who couldn't make it on their own. Reference was made to the Union of Soviet Writers. The response, or I should say that nonsense, disappeared in a puff of smoke when the first list of winners was announced. Patricia Wrightson for her children's novel The Dark Bright Water, Manning Clark for the 4th volume of his magisterial history, and David Malouf for his wonderful novella An Imaginary Life. David Malouf passed away last month, and I especially want to acknowledge him. He was back at these awards every decade or so after 1979. He won the Playwriting Prize in 1987 for Blood Relatives, the Fiction Prize again in 1993 for Remembering Babylon, and the Poetry Prize in 2015 for his beautiful collection called Earth Hours. We know more about our nation and about the literature of the world and the lyrical possibilities of language because of David. I can't think of anyone who made a more substantial contribution to the growth of a free and flourishing literary culture in Australia. So thank you again to the writers with us tonight for your contributions to our culture, to our community, to our libraries. Thank you also to the publishers, the illustrators, the institutions that support writers in New South Wales and Australia. Thank you to the 36 judges, including Senior Judge James Bradley, for your dedication to these awards, the values they hold. And it's now my very great pleasure to introduce the Minister for Arts, the Honourable John Graham.
Thanks so much, Bob. Thanks for those beautiful words, and in particular, your recognition of David Malouf. That's a beautiful thing to commence with. I'd also like to acknowledge that we're here on the land of the Gadigal people and thank Uncle Brendan for that welcome. I'd like to recognise former Arts Minister, along with Bob Davis, Ben Franklin, State Librarian Dr Carolyn Butler-Bowden, James Bradley and his fellow 35 judges, Departmental Secretary Mel Hawes, and most importantly, our shortlisted writers and their families and their fans as well. It's no coincidence that we host these awards here in the State Library of New South Wales. Last year, we launched the first ever literature strategy for New South Wales and made it clear that the State Library should be the central home for readers and for writers in New South Wales. And you can see that in action, as you've heard, here this week as part of the Sydney Writers' Festival. And the partnership between the Writers' Festival and the State Library is such an exciting one at the moment. Part of what makes libraries a home for readers is their vital role in collecting a comprehensive and an impartial selection of books. And as Bob made reference to, we have seen a wave of book banning in America and attempts to mirror that here in this country, which is why we introduced that important amendment to the Library Act. It will enshrine the right to collect in legislation out of the reach of extremists who want to curtail that right. And it is in keeping with the long tradition in New South Wales. And I want to endorse that sentiment of Neville Rand to that idea of upholding a writer's place in a free society is still a universal value. It's still a value that matters here in New South Wales. In fact, when the Grand Mitchell Reading Room upstairs was officially opened in 1943, towards the end of World War II, the Attorney General, Doc Evatt, stood just above, right where you're sitting now, and this is what he said. He said this, that when the war started, the decision to carry on the construction of that State Library Mitchell Reading Room was, and I quote, symbolised a fundamental issue of the war itself. Hitler had destroyed books. We went on building so that books should remain our eternal heritage. Our state thus showed its special faith in the very freedom which our enemies openly suppressed. He said this, great public libraries are essential to freedom. They must always be free, free to collect, to house, to make available to all books by men and women of every shade of opinion. 83 years later, those sentiments are just as true in New South Wales as they were at that moment. And that's why the New South Wales Government is determined to continue protecting, strengthening and opening up our libraries across New South Wales. In the literature strategy, we're also investing in our authors through writing fellowships and residencies in universities and libraries. And we're investing in the smaller literary organisations that support our writers to reach their potential. The other way we want to back writers is very relevant for tonight's event, and that's the tax that exists on prizes. We don't believe tonight's winners should have to pay income tax on this prize, and I'm sure, I feel confident, there's a couple of authors here who agree. That's why we're taking that view directly to the federal government as part of a suite of tax reform ideas for their next national cultural policy. But this awards night each year is an important moment. It's a chance to stop and recognise the hard work and the talent of our writers. So to our writers here tonight, on behalf of the New South Wales Government, I want to thank you for your enormous contribution to the cultural life of New South Wales. The written word has profoundly shaped human development by allowing us to share ideas, to share knowledge across continents, across centuries, and across cultures. And you're carrying on that power tonight. And the honour of being a finalist or a winner here tonight will stay with you for your entire career. You've joined an incredible list of writers associated with this prize over the years, and you deserve to be immensely proud of that. Thank you and congratulations. Have a great night.
Thank you, Minister Graham, for those powerful words. And we love having you in the library, and I know you're here most weeks, so please continue to visit us. I'd now like to welcome Senior Judge James Bradley. He, of course, is an esteemed writer, 9 novels, countless writing for journals, and all sorts of other things. He won last year the Douglas Stewart Prize for Non-Fiction for Deepwater, so it seems really fitting that he's back in the role as lead judge. And on a personal note, James and I grew up in Adelaide. I think we first met when we were 16, and he was as erudite and brilliant then. I think it was at the end of our final year at school. So it's funny how lives intersect and come back together, but it's really a great personal and professional pleasure to welcome you as Senior Judge. Thanks, James.
Thank you, Caroline. I'm confident I was ghastly at 16. I'd like to begin by thanking Uncle Brendan for his, he's left, but for his very generous welcome to country, and very moving and very dignified one as well, I think. And to acknowledge that we're meeting on Gadigal land tonight, and to pay my respects to elders past and present. I'd also like to pay respects to all First Nations people here tonight, and or watching on the watching online. I'd like to thank Caroline as State Librarian and the State Library for making this event possible through their continued stewardship of these awards. The New South Wales Literary Awards are integral part of both the New South Wales and the wider Australian literary ecosystem. And, you know, the state government and the State Library's commitment to them over almost 50 years has played a really vital role, I think, in supporting Australian writers and Australian writing more generally. I'd also really like to thank the Minister. I think that kind of personal commitment to authors and to writing is incredibly important. The Minister also is responsible for putting together New South Wales' first literary strategy, which I think is a document that's actually going to make a material difference to the lives of writers in New South Wales, and it's a really important initiative, so we're very grateful to you, Minister. So I'm going to do thank yous for about an hour here, as you can see. I'd also like to thank the library staff whose incredible work made tonight possible. Chief Moxham's Emma Walsh, who's the engine who makes these awards happen, and is a kind of absolute joy to work with, but also Lydia Tasker and the public programs team, everybody in the office of the state librarian, the library's media team, the venue operations team, and everybody else whose work's gone into tonight. Equally importantly, though, I wanted to thank the judges of this year's awards. Unless something goes wrong, the judges of literary awards usually remain fairly invisible, but without their work tonight, this event wouldn't happen. Actually, there's a number of them in the audience tonight, and we're very glad that so many of you have managed to be here. You can see one in the wild if you're lucky afterwards. But look, over the last 7 or 8 months, those 36 judges have read 783 entries. Often, a number of them they've read several times over that period. They've thought about them, they've talked about them, they've argued about them, sometimes quite passionately. And they've assembled the shortlists and the winners that we're celebrating tonight. As head judge, it's been an incredible honour to watch them go about that task. I've learned a huge amount, but I've also been really bowled over through the process by their kind of passion and their commitment and their deep attention to kind of questions of craft and literary excellence. And finally, though, I would like to acknowledge and thank the writers, and not just the writers who are on the shortlist and not just the winners. I'd like to thank the hundreds of other writers whose work was eligible for this year's awards. I think writing's a really difficult occupation. It's lonely, it's demanding, the rewards are often very small. And if you're doing it well, you're often saying things that people don't want to hear, which means that the personal price can be high. But we desperately need writers. We live in a world, which is, Bob was saying a moment ago, in which kind of violence, weaponised cruelty, and a kind of concerted and very well-funded assault upon the foundations of truth and reality are reshaping societies around the world. I think in a world like that, writing isn't just a craft or a vocation, it's a necessity. Because without people who are prepared to make those sacrifices necessary to show us the world as it really is, we're not going to find our way through. And I think in the end, that's what tonight's really about. Because while we're here to celebrate the extraordinary achievements of the shortlistees and the winners of this year's awards, we're also celebrating the profound importance of writers to our society as a whole and the necessity of the work that they do. So I'd now like to invite the Secretary of the Department of Creative Industries, Tourism, Hospitality and Sport, Melanie Hawes, to present the trophies for tonight. Now, there are a lot of awards, there are a lot of shortlists. As I go through them, it would be great if you could hold applause until the end, so we just kind of rattle through them. The first award we're presenting tonight is for debut writers. It's the UTS Glenda Adams Award for New Writing. The Glenda Adams Award is sponsored by the University of Technology, Sydney, and has been sponsored by them since 2005. It's valued at $10,000. We're extremely grateful to UTS, especially the Vice-Chancellor and President of UTS, Andrew Parfitt, and the UTS leadership team for their ongoing support of this award and debut writers more generally. The shortlisted writers for the 2026 Glenda Adams Award are How to Be Normal by Ange Crawford, Walker Books Australia, Snakeface by Leah Knight, Fruitbox Theatre and Belvoir 25A, An Ant's Guide to Being an Ant by Zoe Ma and Julia Darling, Museums of Victoria Publishing, Wait Here by Lucy Nelson, Summit Books Australia, an imprint of Simon & Schuster Australia, A Savage Turn by Luke Patterson, Magabala Books, Find Me at the Jaffa Gate by Michaela Sahar, New South Publishing, and Long Yarn Short, We Are Still Here by Vanessa Turnbull Roberts, UQP. And the winner of the 2026 Glenda Adams Award for New Writing is Find Me at the Jaffa Gate by Michaela Sahar, published by Michelle.
I'm very heartened by the speeches we've had so far, which will make mine less of an outlier than I imagined it might be. Thank you to the judges of the Douglas Stewart and Multicultural New South Wales Award for nominating me for this award. Thank you to UTS and the panel who've awarded Find Me at the Jaffa Gate this prize. It's an honour to be in the company of such an exciting list of new writers, some of whom I've seen in the audience tonight. It's so delightful to see you. I'm lucky to have had the opportunity to thank the many people who helped this book become a reality in my home city. Since I'm in New South Wales tonight, it is an honour to thank in person my friends at Sweatshop Literacy Movement, particularly Michael Muhammad Ahmed and Winnie Dunn, who have given me the most generous and apposite advice in all things. To my editor, Harriet McInerney, and the team at New South, who produced the book I envisioned. In all its experimental idiosyncrasies, they are a shining example of why we need to fight for independent publishers. I am grateful to accept this award for new writing in what, if I am very lucky, is approximately the middle of my life. That we can continue to learn new things and do differently to how we have done is, I think, a crucial part of what it means to be human. It is also a vital rejoinder to the new strain of fascism that has come to dwell among us, advanced in no small part by the systemic apathy we have seen from political leaders in the ongoing Gaza genocide, which resembles the history of state encounters with First Nations people in this country. The new is experienced differentially. The people who populate Find Me at the Jaffa Gate were called on to reinvent themselves in consequence of the evisceration of their rights and homeland in the ongoing Palestinian Nakba that began in 1948 and whose 78th year we have commemorated just 3 days ago. My pa, Abdullah Sahar, was at that time approximately in the middle of his life. And so for him, the new was a matter of both grief and great tenacity. It is in response to the kind of new that one may never wish to encounter in their lifetime that 78 years later, in February of this year, the people of this city found themselves on the crest of a new wave, one awakened in this country by the Gaza genocide. As a radio producer recently remarked to me, they had never heard of the Nakba until the events of October 2023. How shocking that it should take a genocide for people to learn of the ongoing dispossession of Palestinian people, but how very heartening that people are willing to keep learning. To every single person who attended the protests that objected to the state's visit of Israel's President Herzog in February, who stood up to the protest bans imposed by the Premier of this state, who were grossly treated by police people, you are to be commended for your clear-sighted recognition that the oppressed is not the oppressor, that the vulnerable are not the dominators. Each person who stood up at the February protest illustrated what it means to do something different, something new. We need ordinary people to be the avant-garde in the hope that their bravery might shape the apparatuses of power in a new and better way. As a Palestinian person, I urge everyone to new ways of seeing the world and thank everyone in this state who joined those protests from the bottom of my heart. That is how we free Palestine. That is how we free ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Michaela. The next award is the Multicultural New South Wales Award. This award is generously sponsored by Multicultural New South Wales and is valued at $30,000. It covers works across all genres of writing that relate to any aspect of the Australian migration experience, aspects of cultural diversity and multiculturalism in Australian society. The judges of this category were Tui On, Sarah Ayub, Simon Chan, Fazid Draki, and Ita Hansens. The shortlisted works are Discipline by Randa Abdel Fattah, Learned Behaviours by Zainab Gamildian, Ultimo Press, Mariang, Song of Time by Stan Grant, Bunji, an imprint of Simon & Schuster, Australia, How to Dodge Flying Sandals and Other Advice for Life by Daniel Noor, Affirm Press, Find Me at the Jaffa Gate by Michaela Sahar, New South Publishing, and Gather Up Your World in One Long Breath by S. Shaktidaran, Powerhouse Publishing. We also had 2 highly commended books this year. we had Shapeshifting, edited by Janine Lane and Ellen Van Neerven, UQP, and It's a Sign by Ila Panache, Guest House Publishing. And the winner of this year's New South Wales Multicultural Award is Gather Up Your World in One Long Breath by S. Shaktidaram, published by Powerhouse Publishing.
Nice to get an actual thing. They're not there anymore, but the other nominees, I mean, that's you're the people that I look up to and feel a part of the community of. It's an honour to be nominated beside you. And same with the judges. I've been a judge before in these things, and ultimately it's about what leaves an impact on you. And, you know, it's really beautiful to share your work with you in this way. I also want to thank Lisa and Gemma at Powerhouse. They've supported this book from the beginning, and Lisa's been a very special part of my life. She's one of the few people I know who just supports artists and all the crazy things they want to do. And quite often we feel like we have to argue about which box we fit into, and it's really beautiful to be looked at as a full person. So thank you, Powerhouse, for doing that. This book is an act of vulnerability for me. It's my story and my ancestors' story, and it's strange to win the Multicultural Prize at this time. It's a time when multiculturalism, the idea of it, is being challenged here and around the world. And I find that odd, because to challenge that idea really puts the gauntlet down and says that people can't live together. And if you look at it more deeply, it's a denial of our ability to love across difference. And I think we all know that we can. We know it in our bones that we can love, and it's part of the human condition, always. And in times like this, when multiculturalism is being challenged, there's a tendency to keep this knowledge that we all actually know as a secret, to love in private and to be our full selves behind closed doors. Because we become afraid that if we show ourselves in the blinding light of the public square, we'll be demonized or laughed at, or worst of the worst, misunderstood. But we have to do it anyway. We have to figure out a way to show our love across difference. I don't want to be someone who feels like we have to defend our right to be here. To belong to a home or a country or a land is a human right. And it's not one I want to argue for. So what do we have to do as artists? If we continue to tell our stories in all their glorious complexity and show our full selves, just like Brother Boy said at the beginning of this night, we might remind just enough people, obviously not everyone, but enough of us, that we can love as humans and we can live together no matter where we come from. Indeed, that it actually comes naturally to us. And slowly but surely we can shift this country from a place that asks us to discard parts of ourselves to fit in to one which invites us to bring our full selves to really fulfill the promise of what this country can be.
Next up, we have the Indigenous Writers' Prize. The Indigenous Writers' Prize acknowledges the significant contribution made to Australian literary culture by Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander writers and is valued at $30,000. The judges for this prize this year were Auntie Faye Muir, Glenn Shea, who was a winner from last year, and Crystal DiNapoli. The shortlist is Mariyang, Song of Time by Stan Grant, Wunji, an imprint of Simon & Schuster, Australia. Apron Sorrow, Sovereignty, by Natalie Harkin, Wakefield Press. On the Way to Yalambara by Rariwe Gumur Marika and Rukwur Ganamba Stubbs, Indigenous Literacy Foundation. Eclipse by Curly Saunders, Joan, an imprint of Alan Numwin. Long Yarn Short, We Are Still Here by Vanessa Turnbull Roberts, UQP. And Old Days by Marjorie Nunga Williams, Magabala Books. And the winner is Apron Sorrow Sovereignty by Natalie Harkin, published by Wakefield Press.
Oh, thank you. I want to first acknowledge beautiful Gadigal country and all Aboriginal people across the many Eora nations that call this place home. A special thanks to Uncle Brendan for his very generous welcome to country, as is very amazing, beautiful protocol that we all uphold so dearly. As a Narungga woman born and raised on Kaurna country, Kaurna, I extend my respect and solidarity to you all. Thank you to the judges for this award, and congratulations to all nominees who are writing the stories of our communities through such staunch love, humour, honour and humility. And I extend my collective kinship solidarity to all writers and readers against genocide who will never stop speaking truth to power. And I'm so honoured to be in great company with you, Michaela Sahar. Thank you to Wakefield Press, especially Michael Boland and designer Rachel Harris from Bit Scribbly for their patience working with me to curate and create something so tactile with this book, and that we're all very proud of. And of course, I thank my partner Denise and our kids, Kura and Marley. And Marley is an incredible writer, and she's in the audience with me tonight. This book was a long time in the making, a collaborative mixed media project with many amazing and generous women in my family and my community to document South Australian Aboriginal women's stories and the suppressed and hidden labour history that represents the epic backdrop to all of our lives, our shared histories. This included an exhibition also of the same name, Apron Sorrow Sovereignty, with creative collaborators, including my Unbound Collective sisters from Flinders University. I sat with around 2,500 files from our state Aboriginal Women's Domestic Service archives over many, many years, which represented our families and our ancestors, whose lives are so meticulously documented through surveillance files in our state's colonial archives. They received very little, if no, justice at the time, and we read them now through a lens of reckoning and the deepest honouring. There can be no truth-telling in this country without access to our archives and our records, and this award is also for all of our ancestors who wrote with such dignity all these incredible letters, with such dignity and defiance, letter after beautifully written, handwritten letter to the state. These stories reveal the unfinished business of stolen wages and archival justice in the state of South Australia, and I'm so honoured to elevate the strength, the love, the strategic resilience and refusal of these incredible women, not only for the recognition that they deserve, but the justice that they're owed. Thank you.
If I could just, no shade on any of the other winners, could I just say, Natalie, that I found Apron Sorrow an incredibly affecting book, partly because I grew up in South Australia and I found it actually a deeply traumatic book to read. It's a very powerful piece of work. Sorry, as I say, no shade on anyone else. Next up we have the... probably can't say anything about one person because then... next up, we have the Betty Rowland Prize for scriptwriting. The judges for this award were Genevieve Chang, Pauline Clegg, and Richard Kuipers. The shortlisted works are Mystery Road Origin, Season 2, Episode 2, by Jata Alberts, Bunya Productions, ABC. The Correspondent, by Peter Duncan, Pop Family Entertainment. Fisk, Season 3, Episode 3, I'm the Fisk, by Penny Flanagan and Kitty Flanagan, ABC. Christie, by Mira Folks and David Michaud, Black Bear. The Narrow Road to the Deep North, Episode 4, by Sean Grant, Curio Pictures, Screen Australia, Amazon MGM Studios. And Apple Cider Vinegar, Episode 1, by Samantha Strauss, Seesaw Films and Picking Scabs. And the winner is The Narrow Road to the Deep North, Episode 4 by Sean Grant.
I'm going to be as brief as possible. Our babysitter fell through and I have a 7-month-old at the back of the auditorium that should probably go to bed. So this is going to be a world record. I will thank the State Library and the New South Wales Government and the judges for their generosity and support of the arts. I said it last time, I was fortunate enough to be on this stage, but awards are good, but money's even better. And it's better because it gives you time, and time to create for a writer is everything. And that's what this will do to my producers, my cast and crew, everyone that brought my scripts to life. I thank them. To Richard Flanagan for allowing me to adapt his sublime novel. I thank him. My agent of many, many years, Catherine Fleming, for her undying support. To those that serve our country and continue to and did on the Thai-Burma Railway, including my grandfather, I thank them for their sacrifice. And I will thank, most importantly, my wife, Annabelle, who is up there somewhere, who is my Ella and my Amy, my rock and my muse, my everything. I love you. Thank you very much.
Next up, we have the Nick Enright Prize for Playwriting, which is valued at $30,000. The judges this year were Dylan Vandenberg, Peter Matheson and Paige Rattray, and the shortlisted plays are Song of First Desire by Andrew Bevell, Belfast Street Theatre and Currency Press. The Black Woman of Gippsland by Andrea James, Melbourne Theatre Company, Currency Press. Snakeface by Leah Knight, Fruitbox Theatre and Belvoir 25A. Destiny by Kirsty Marillier, the Melbourne Theatre Company. The Wrong Gods by S. Shaktidaran, Belvoir Street Theatre, Melbourne Theatre Company, Currency Press. Troy by Tom Wright, Malthouse Theatre. And we also, again, have 2 highly commended plays this year. We have Koreaboo by Michelle Lim Davidson from Griffin Theatre Company and Nucleus by Alana Valentine from Griffin Theatre Company and Currency Press. And the winner is The Black Woman of Gippsland by Andrea James, Melbourne Theatre Company.
Oh, it's heavy. Thank you, everybody. Thank you to the judges, some of whom are colleagues of mine. It's a very small world, Australian playwriting and theatre in particular. And I want to thank and pay my respects to the Gadigal people. I'm a Gunai Kurnai and Yorta Yorta woman. State boundaries don't really mean much to us, but for those of you who've had the pleasure of living or working on Yorta Yorta country, we have our feet on both sides of the border. That's why it's Yorta Yorta. So I'm quite happy to cross both of these border. And for us, actually, the border was a place of safety. If the black car came, we jumped in the river and we went over to the other side, and that's what my family did, and they ended up in Victoria. So, it's good to have pickings on both sides of the border, hunting grounds, as it were. I just really want to thank the Gunai Kurnai elders, past and present. This is a true story, and some of those elders lost their lives as a result of this story. I want to thank in particular my Auntie Glenys Watkins, who's the story holder for our family, who kept this incredible knowledge alive, as well as my late uncle Philip Pepper, who was the main story holder of this particular story that's survived for generations and that I was able to tell and put in writing up here with all of the other nominees as well. I want to thank my cousin, Brent Watkins. Writing is a funny thing for blackfellas because, we sing these stories, we dance these stories and we tell them, and there are many ways that we tell these stories. I want to thank my cousin Wayne Thorpe, who's a language expert, whose exquisite Gunai Kurnai language and words are in this play as well. and to my auntie Doris Patton, an academic, or who we would call a black academic, who inspired the main academic through line of the play as well. Thank you to Melbourne Theatre Company, who commissioned the work, to all the literary team there, Jennifer Medway and Zoe Dawson in particular, to my sister Kamara Bell Wykes and Brian Andy, who nudged me along the way and encouraged and wanted better from me as well. Theatre making is very much a collaborative art form. Thank you to everyone at Currency Press, for continuing to champion these little Australian plays that somehow can. As I said before, this is a true story, and this is a fantastic prize, and the cash is going to be great. But the biggest prize for me would be the immediate removal, or at least reinterpretation, of the 3 memorials to the so-called founder of Gippsland, Angus McMillan, who we actually know as the butcher of Gippsland. He led several massacres and is responsible for the deaths of hundreds of Gunai-Kurnai people. This is a play that contributes to truth-telling, and I want to retell this story, and I want to smash those memorials to the ground. So thank you to everybody who supported this story, for those who actually, whose lives were lost for this story. And I hope that this inspires many more black academics and many more black writers to come. Thank you. It's an absolute honour.
We now have 2 awards for younger readers. The first is the Ethel Turner Prize for Young People's Literature, which is valued at $30,000 and was judged this year by Davina Bell, Anna Feinberg and Amberlyn Quemelina. The shortlisted books are A Good Kind of Trouble by Brooke Blurton and Melanie Saywood, HarperCollins Publishers Australia. How to Be Normal by Ange Crawford, Walker Books Australia. Darkest Night, Brightest Star by Barry Johnsberg, Alan Nunman Children's Publishing. Weaving Us Together by Leigh Maloney, Lothian Children's Books, an imprint of Hachette, Australia. Golden by Jade Timms, Text Publishing. Desert Tracks by Marley Wells and Linda Wells, Magabala Books. We also have a highly commended title, which is Starlight by Solly Raphael. It's Puffin, an imprint of Penguin Random House, Australia. And the winner is Desert Tracks by Marley Wells and Linda Wells, Magabala Books. Now, unfortunately, Marley and Linda were unable to join us tonight, but they have sent us this message.
Well, what an honour. I'm Linda.
And I'm Marley, and we are in Alice Springs and Barntua on Aranda Country. And this is where Desert Tracks was born and raised.
We want to express our heartfelt gratitude to everybody involved with the New South Wales Literary Awards. Also to Magabala Books, our fantastic publisher, for publishing Desert Tracks and for all of the incredible support they've given us. And we also want to recognise all of the shortlisted nominees in the Ethel Turner Prize for Young People's Literature for all of the outstanding books that everyone has written.
We love Desert Tracks, and one of the things that we really wanted to talk about in this book is colonisation, and recognising that colonisation caused and continues to cause chaos for all of us. One of its most powerful tools is controlling the narrative. So the more that we can contradict those dominant colonial narratives through truth-telling, the better off we'll all be.
We're really proud of Desert Tracks, and we're really proud to win this award this evening. And we're really sorry that we can't be there to celebrate with you all. And if anybody wants to contact us for any reason, please go right ahead. Thanks very much and have a great evening.
Thank you.
And the second prize for young people's literature is the Patricia Wrightson Prize for children's literature. Patricia was the winner of the first award in 1979, as Bob said earlier. Now, The Wrightson is valued at $30,000 and it was judged this year by Tim Harris, Ursula Chibasarski and Mariam Master. The shortlist is Little Bones by Sandy Bignar, UQP, Into the Bewilderness by Gus Gordon, Hardy Grant, Children's Publishing, The Year We Escaped by Suzanne Leal, HarperCollins Publishers Australia, An Ant's Guide to Being an Ant by Zoe Ma and Julia Darling, Museums Victoria Publishing, A Gift from the Birds by Caroline Stills, Text Publishing, and Gone by Michelle Strike, Thames and Hudson, Australia. And the winner is Gone by Michelle Strike, published by Thames and Hudson.
Thank you. Just got to make sure I don't drop this. Yeah, thanks so much. I can't see any. Oh, now I can see people. Thanks so much. I'm thrilled and honoured to receive this award, and also in this wonderful space dedicated to books and reading. I'm frequently surprised by the heartfelt reactions this peculiar picture book is evoking. Gone is a story about dying, grief, and memories. And bizarrely, and my publisher actually doesn't even know this, bizarrely, it was almost published posthumously. But that's a whole other story for another day. But now I'm everything's fine, and I'm looking forward to many years of creating more books. And talking of creating books, as you all know, a published book is never created by just one person. So I would like to thank the fantastic team at Thames and Hudson who shaped this book with me, especially my publisher, Claire Hume, my editor, Faye Helfenbaum, and also for this very design-heavy book, my co-designer, Sasha Beekman. I also thank my wife, Lisa, who has supported me in all my adventures in the world of books and illustration. And also a big thank you to the State Library and the award judges who I imagine, after working through their mountain of books, are now happy to make their own selections again for their reading material. So thanks so much. And yeah, I'm thrilled and honoured.
Next up, we have the Kenneth Slessor Prize for Poetry, which is valued at $30,000 and was judged this year by Rico Craig, Alison Croggan, Kate Middleton, Sarah Emma Salah, and Les Wicks. The shortlist is A Sonogramma by KLR, Puncher and Watman, Year of the Ox by Andrew Brooks, Cordite Publishing, Inc., How to Emerge by Jill Jones, Vagabond Press, Bathapelagia by Debbie Lim, Cordite Publishing, Inc., The Hum Hearers by Shay Mark, UWA Publishing, and Past and Parallel Lives by Kaya Ortiz, UWA Publishing. And the winner is How to Emerge by Jill Jones.
It is heavy, isn't it? Okay, just have a few notes here. First of all, I want to acknowledge that this book was primarily written on Kaurna land, and I pay my respects to Kaurna people and Kaurna elders, past and present, but also to acknowledge that, as some of you may know, I was not born over there, but here, and a few of the poems in the book were actually also written on Gadigal land. And again, I pay my respects to Gadigal people and their elders, past and present. And they were over there and here and right across this large continent, the original songmakers of this place and these places. I want to thank my publisher, Michael Brennan, and the crew at Vagabond Press for believing in the book, and for us poets, that's really important. And also to Michael himself for being the only sounding board for the manuscript before it emerged. Oh, and my apologies, it's not a how-to book. I'm sorry about that. It's a book of poetry. And I also want to thank Creative Australia for funding particularly small presses like Vagabond, who are publishing poetry and experimental work. And it's really important that work keeps on going, so I want to thank them. I want to thank my partner, photographer Annette Willis, for endless love and support. And again, as a poet, often I need that, and other poets maybe as well. But also for the fabulous cover. She's been a wonderful photographer of many things, but certainly many of my books have had covers by her. I do want to thank the New South Wales Government and the State Library. It's interesting, I once worked for the Ministry of the Arts, and I guess I'm probably the only person who maybe has been a judge for these awards in the past, has won these awards, but also has administered these awards. So I want to thank the New South Wales Government and the State Library. I also worked here as well many years ago. For supporting literary endeavour, particularly in these times. But it's interesting to hear Bob Debus remind us of what Neville Wran did all those years ago, and what he was thinking about, that governments can support literary endeavour without sort of cracking down on literary endeavour, as it often happens in other places. And of course, I want to thank the Kenneth Lester Award judges, Rico, Alison, Kate, Sarah and Les, for choosing How to Emerge, because it was a wonderful list that James read out. And there's also so many wonderful books of Australian poetry that are being written at the moment. So it's something to be actually chosen from all of that. And I've done that sort of judging, and it's so difficult, isn't it? And I also want to thank them for their recognition of what the book is doing, or what I think it's doing, because there's an attention. I was wanting to pay attention to both the infinitesimal as well as the cosmological, and the resonance. And I'm quoting some of the words that the judges used about the book. Why not? The resonance between sky, asphalt, weed, wharf, vulnerability and memory, and many, many other things. And in particular, the book is concerned about not just the human world. I didn't want it just to be anecdotal ideas about this and that between people. That's important. But we live amongst other entities, non-human entities, and in fact amongst the non-sentient as well, because even if not sentient, everything resonates. We all resonate and we all move. And a lot of the book is about, in that movement, we create shadows, and you can interpret shadows in any way you wish, but very clearly you would know what I mean there, and ghosts and doubles. And I wanted to move between both the desire that we have for each other, all sorts of desires, of course, but also the debris, and particularly the debris that us humans have made of this world yet. And I'm now going to quote a far, far greater poet than myself, William Blake, I wanted the reader to, among other things, see a world in a grain of sand and a heaven in a wildflower, hold infinity in the palm of your or my hand, and eternity in an hour. And for the reader, I hope to be present amongst, as I said, the desire and debris of our pasts, our presents, and our very shaky futures. To be human among and not above the non-human and the elements. And I'll just finish on the last line of the book, let in the undone sky. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. That must be the most satisfying victory lap anyone's ever done. Next up, we have the Douglas Stewart Prize for Non-Fiction. The judges for Douglas Stewart this year were Mason Connaughton, Alan Atkinson, Mira Atkinson, no relation, I understand, Bridget Brennan and Anton Enos. The award is valued at $40,000, and the shortlisted books for this year are Always Home, Always Homesick by Hannah Kent, Picador Australia, an imprint of Pan Macmillan Australia. Find Me at the Jaffa Gate by Michaela Sahar, New South Publishing. Gather Up Your World in One Long Breath by S. Shaktidaran, Powerhouse Publishing. 58 Facets by Marika Sosnowski, Melbourne University Publishing. Clever Men by Martin Thomas, Alan Numwin. And Nakudaruk, The Bark Petitions by Claire Wright, Text Publishing. And the winner is Nakudaruk, The Bark Petitions by Claire Wright.
It is heavy. Namadi bookmark. Hello, everyone. I'd like to begin by thanking Uncle Brendan and acknowledging the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation for welcoming us onto their unceded sovereign land tonight. It's a generosity and a privilege none of us should take for granted, and I pay my respects to elders past and present, and also to other First Nations people who are joining us in the room tonight. As James just announced, my name is Claire Wright, but Ngaraku Yongo Yaku, my Yongle name, is Goimolulu, and I want to invoke that name on this special night. It's the name that Ngaraku Due, Galaroi Yunupingu, gave me when he realised I was fair dinkum about telling the Yualk Dawu, the true story of his people. I've been given permission by his family to say his name in discussing the book because obviously Dr. G. Yunupingu passed a few years ago. I'd previously been culturally adopted by Ngaraku Yappa, Valerie Gunambar, to whom this book is dedicated, with the name Gareka, which means the Darwin stringy bark. Goimolulu means special tree, and Due let me know that I'd earned the upgrade. You blow them up, he said to me in one of our daily interviews in Arnhem Land, in the Arnhem Land Rarandar, the dry season in 2021. You light them up, and you tell them that these were the names of the people. I want them to take their responsibility. The mining and the church. Well, I think that we blew them up, Due. It's a huge honour and a privilege to win the Douglas Stewart Prize for Non-Fiction in these awards tonight. And I want to acknowledge and celebrate the extraordinary works of my fellow shortlisted authors, Hannah, Marika, Martin, and particularly Michaela, whose book, Find Me at the Jaffa Gate, which we saw win tonight, I absolutely adore. I'd also like to acknowledge my other Yappa, Merkiwe Ganambar Stubbs, who has been an incredible teacher and protector of me and was integral to this project and she was shortlisted here tonight for her own book, On the Way to Yallangbara, with Rarawee Marika. I want to thank the New South Wales Government and the State Library of New South Wales for hosting these awards tonight. A lot of people have said a lot of things about them. I won't do that now, but thank you. The judges, oh my goodness, what a top-shelf gold standard group of adjudicators for this category, and I'm truly humbled to win your esteem. My publisher, Text Publishing, for backing this big book of history with a language title. My brilliant editor, Mandy Brett, without whom the entirety of my Democracy trilogy, which Nakudaruk is the third instalment, would be a messy pile of pages on my cluttered computer screen. My agent and my dear friend Jacinta de Mars, a more ferocious advocate of an author and any author could not hope to have. My fellow travellers in the history game, Anna Clark and Eve Rees and Tom Griffiths, for their unwavering encouragement in the face of many hills and dales of history writing, and to all those who were there with me in the writing cave, battling that dragon, and you know who you are. To the critics and journalists and readers who have backed this book, it was published in October 2024, and I've spent the last 16 months on the road. They've sent it, all these people, particularly the readers, have sent it into its fourth print run. To my Ngāpuki family, particularly my kids, Esther, Bernard and Noah, who haven't read this book and perhaps never will, probably never will, they haven't read a word I've written, but they have been along for the journey in all of the ways, and I admire and respect their courage and their commitment. And finally, to my Yolngu family, who have loved, trusted and emboldened and entertained and educated me for 15 years now, long before this book commenced, and I know long after it's gathering dust on the shelves. And finally, I'd like to say, this is a book about a people, the Yolngu people, speaking truth to power. Their truth about their power, Yolngu power. A power that came from the Wangar, the ancestors, and the Wanga, the land. It's a story about respect, consultation, and consent. Values and practices we have seen demolished in recent decisions by publishers, universities, and other cultural organisations and boards around First Nations knowledges, cultural representation, and freedom of speech. I stand with all those writers and academics, including Jazz Money and Randa Abdel Fattah, whose intellectual sovereignty has been trashed by moral cowardice and a lack of the sort of responsibility and accountability that Gullaroo so beseeched. Thank you.
Now we move on to the Christina Stead Prize for Fiction. The judges for this year were Jock Sarong, Abbas Elzain, Jen Martin, Angela O'Keefe and Jonathan Seidler. The award's valued at $40,000 and the shortlisted books for this award are Cure by Catherine Braben, Ultimo Press, Arborescence by Rhett Davis, Hachette, Australia, The Immigrants by Moreno Giovannoni, Black Ink, The Passenger Seat by Vijay Khurana, Ultimo Press, Rapture by Emily Maguire, Alan Numwin, An Elegy Southwest by Madeline Watts, Ultimo Press. And the winner is The Immigrants by Moreno Giovannoni.
Buonasera. That's a fancy way of saying good evening. In 1967, I was 12 years old, and my mother Morena and father Ugo, tobacco share farmers from northeast Victoria, from a place called Buffalo River, bought me a typewriter because I wanted to be a writer. It took me 51 years to write my first book, The Fireflies of Autumn, and another 6 to write this one. I'm forever grateful to the State Library of New South Wales, to Create New South Wales, to the judges of the Christina Stead Prize for Fiction, to my publisher Chris Fike and his team at Black Ink, and to Anna for putting up with me for the past 50 years. The Immigrants is a universal story about migrants everywhere, and comes at a time when migrants are in the news again. I hope you will read it. I only wish Morena and Hugo were here to see the book they inspired. Thank you.
Now, we move on now to the second to last category, which is the University of Sydney People's Choice Award. The People's Choice Award, over recent weeks, the public voted for their favourite book out of all the shortlisted works for the Douglas Stewart Prize for Non-Fiction, the Christina Stead Prize for Fiction, and the Kenneth Slessor Prize for Poetry. The winner of the award receives $10,000 thanks to the sponsor of this award, which is the University of Sydney. And we thank the University of Sydney for the very generous support of this award. The winner of this year's University of Sydney People's Choice Award is Rapture by Emily Maguire.
I just want to first add my congratulations to all of the winners and shortlistees from tonight. It is an honour and a joy to be in the company of so many writers who I deeply admire. Thank you to the University of Sydney for supporting this prize and supporting Australian writers in such a meaningful way. Thank you to the judges and to the State Library staff for all the deep thought and hard work that goes into making all of this happen. Thank you, Grace Heifetz, my agent, who, when I said I was working on a weird little medieval girl pope story, not only didn't flinch, but actually encouraged me. Thank you, Jane Paul-Freeman, for championing that weird story from day one. And thank you, Alex Craig and the team at Allen & Unwin for bringing it so beautifully into the world. And especially enormous thanks to everyone who voted for Rapture for this award. Writing has always felt to me like taking one big leap of faith after another, and this feels like being caught midair and held tight for tonight. So thank you, truly, thank you.
We now come to the final award of the evening, which is the Book of the Year. Now, each of the genre category winners are eligible for Book of the Year. They're all then voted on by the head judges. Without further ado, I am delighted to announce that the Book of the Year is Nakudaro, The Bark Petitions by Claire Wright.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, now I'm shaking. I'm going to get another bite of this cherry. They don't tell you about this one, but just in case I wrote something. Okay. All meaningful works of history writing, I believe, help us join the dots between past and present. One of the particularly powerful connected elements of Naku Daruk is the way it demonstrates how a strong and sovereign Indigenous people resisted the Australian government's attempted erasure and silencing of their voice, of their very existential right to belong on and to their land and their law. The story told in this book, through both documentary, archival and eyewitness oral sources, also speaks to the potency of allyship,
of defending basic human, civil and democratic rights, even when your own quotidian existence is not directly threatened. At this time of Israel's genocide in Gaza and resultant moves both in Australia and globally to suppress legitimate criticism of the death, dispossession and destruction of sovereign people by Palestinians and their allies, the weight and fortune of this book's Daruk, its message, could not be more opportune. As an academic historian, a Jewish Australian, and a human being, I stand here tonight grateful for the opportunity to participate in the global and timeless struggle for justice and equality under the law, resisting the mounting pressure from governments, universities, funding bodies and publishing companies to stay quiet, timid and submissive at a time of patent polycrisis. Many of my colleagues in the literary and academic world are paying the price for their non-compliance, including some who may be in the room tonight. And to them I say, you are seen and valued for your resistance. The Indian writer Amitav Ghosh, who I'm interviewing at Sydney Writers' Festival later this week, documents how, in 1 year in one Dutch town in 1613, 63 women were burnt at the stake. Ghosh describes the conjoined processes of physical and intellectual violence against women and their knowledges, with the emergence of the new economies based on extracting resources from what he calls a desacralised, inanimate earth. Colonialism, white supremacy, and patriarchy are the toil and trouble that continue to beset our burning planet over 400 years later. We must collectively continue to defend and grow democracy as the precondition for our collective survival. Thank you once again to the New South Wales Government and other sponsors of these awards, to the judges, my fellow nominated authors, my family and friends, my publisher, editor and agent, and particularly to the Yolngu people who entrusted me with their story, which is all of our story. As Omer Elikard, the recipient of the 2025 National Book Award, so elegantly titled his winning book, one day everyone will have always been against this. Thank you.
Thank you, James, and congratulations to all the winners. We're nearly there. That now concludes this awards ceremony. Thank you for joining us here tonight. Thank you for joining us online. Please give a final thanks and a clap to all the shortlisted and all those writers, as well as the winners tonight. I want to say a huge thank you to our library team. They have been mentioned a few times. The care, the consideration, and all done with incredible humility. And I'm going to call them out. Emma Walsh, who's been standing over there, who runs the program. Claudine Wheeling, who runs my office and writes every brief and all the rest of it. Thank you, Claudine. Lydia Tasker, our incredible head of public programs. Marcelo Flaxbard, who runs this venue and is busy all the time. Thank you, Marcelo. And finally, to Richard Neville and Rani Hayward, the two directors responsible for these awards. Thank you very much. And I'm going to finish on the fact that the library shop is selling the books, and there is no better way to support writing in this country than going out and buying books for yourselves, for your friends and for everyone else. Please enjoy drinks and refreshments, and we hope to see you in the library again very soon. Thank you very much.